Welcome to the Make Life Your Bitch podcast. I'm your host, Brittany Alysia. Greatness is a decision and your birthright. You deserve to love the woman looking back at you in the mirror. This show is for the purpose-driven female entrepreneur who is committed to only counting the time she gets back up. The woman who is ready to ignite the flame within, find her voice, and use the power of her story to transform the lives of those around her. This is your weekly fuel to inspire you to action, where I'll be sharing inspirational stories, real talks with thought leaders and successful entrepreneurs from around the world, and provide you with actionable success strategies for creating a business you love. I'm a content marketing coach, and I'm committed to helping you as an online creator and entrepreneur wherever you are to turn your dreams into a reality, to help you transform your messaging so you can create a genuine connection with your audience and grow your income online. You are far more powerful and stronger than you will ever imagine. We are the warriors. You were born for this. Let's make life your bitch. Hello and welcome to the Make Life Your Bitch podcast. I am your host, Brittany Alysia, and today I have Neeti Savla in with me to have an amazing discussion all about how she empowers women coaches who have health conditions to build intuitive and energy-aligned businesses. Let's dive right into it. Please tell me, I know you've shared parts of your story with me, and I'm just excited for you to dive in and tell me how you got to where you are today.
So it's a 20-year long journey because I've been dealing with health conditions since I'm 10. But really what got me here is a bunch of few things. One is just, I think, because of having health conditions, I have 3 skin conditions, hypothyroidism, anemia, and fatigue and low energy since I can remember. And really what that propelled me into was a lot of self-development, a lot of self-love, a lot of just healing, and a lot of resources that made me dive deep into spirituality and inner growth. I think that's one of the key aspects of my life. One key theme was dealing with health conditions. Secondly, because I had skin conditions, they kind of impacted how I look. Because one of them was a discoloration disorder that kind of kept coming and going since I was 18, in the prime years of my life, right? When I was dating, when I was choosing my life partner, when I got married, and all of that. So really, it really impacted what my self-identity has been over the years. And especially because I have a skin condition that spreads all over the body without you being able to control, right? Like if someone has acne, they know it's only going to be on their face pretty much, right? But this could be anywhere in your whole body, and at any speed it could just spread, and you could look different today and different 1 week later, right? So there was no real control over how I looked, and so that played a huge part in my self-identity. And of course, diving into a lot of psychology, self-help, inner healing, inner child work, past life healing, ancestral healing, all of that brought up amazing life themes, spiritual themes for me to heal, which also brought me to this work of coaching people. And of course, I think since childhood until my first 4 jobs that I did before I got into coaching, I've always had coaching elements because I was a teacher with a low income school. I was a teacher trainer, curriculum designer. So I was always interacting with the education system, and I was always coaching people through my work. And then once I grew a business as well, a lot of coaching elements with the organization, etc. And when I launched my coaching business as well, I knew that I had to impact people. So I think impact, coaching, psychology, spirituality, self-help and healing, and working with multiple health conditions has been a continuous theme of my life. So putting all of that together, that's how I ended up here where I am. And of course, there are specifics to the story, but I wanted to just kind of share these are the large themes that brought me to impacting women, brought me to coaching, brought me to business, and brought me to working with women with health conditions, especially because I have dealt with them for 20 years of my life and healed multiple of my health conditions as well. So yeah, that's what brings me to where I am now.
So what was it like, when you first started to identify that you did have, a skin condition? Because obviously, like you said, you were 18 years old. So how did that affect your identity? Do you remember what it was like as all of a sudden your skin started to change, and how that started to impact your identity, not just like the way you connected with other people, but internally?
Yeah. So somehow I think when I was younger, like since from the ages of 10 to 20, when I had the most long patch of disease and illness, I had a very, very amazing sense of acceptance, because as a child, somehow, I had an inner confidence. I was always that confident, rebellious teenager and child who would always speak up and, speak her truth and raise her hand in class, and would always be called by the teachers as someone who was too outspoken, too loud, too aggressive, and all of that. So somehow I was able, my confidence and my self belief really carried me through those first 10 years of having health conditions, because I took it like as a very, very easy, it was almost like water over the body. It was so simple for me. It was so natural. I felt like I was really blessed with great coaches, healers. I was working with therapists since the age of 18. So I invested in myself. I had a family in India that really supported self-development as well. So I, joined Louis Hay's Heal Your Life program when I was 18. I invested in multiple psychology certifications. So I really had a lot of tools to make sense of that. I did a lot of inner child healing work right when I was 18, like between 18 to 25. So whatever were the stressors from childhood, they started healing. I started feeling really good about all of those things pretty early on. I started investing in self-love and self-love practices pretty early on. So I feel like I was truly blessed, and I was truly connected to a higher spirit. So I think all of that really kind of pulled me through that really, really beautifully. And I was able to work on myself and heal those wounds and heal that pain and that trauma very, very, as it came up, I would heal it. So I think somehow in the first 10 years of my life, I would say that it was like really easy, and I was naturally blessed with a lot of strength and resources to deal with it. And I have a very supportive family who never looked at me differently, which also gave me the support to go out there very confidently and securely in the world. So I think it really was something that I embraced as a part of my identity. I embraced it as who I was, and I still was exactly who I wanted to be in the world. So somehow in my first 10 years of disease, it was very, very easy for me. Easy in the sense that I always had help. I was dealing with it very, very head on. So it was never a thing. It never took over my sense of self or my identity. I think that happened a few years later down in the story. Until 20, I was really, really happy and very, very empowered and really kind of working through it very beautifully.
And so how did it transform? Like you said, you mentioned a lot of confidence. And I know for myself, if I'm going through self-development and all that kind of stuff, it's really easy to stay in that positive and confident state. But all of a sudden, we feel so good. I mean, this is my experience. I felt like I'll feel so good. And then I get kind of complacent. And then all of a sudden you feel that dip. And so that's how I know I've been. So how did that change for you? What changed that led to the identity shift for yourself when you were, when things did start to change?
Yeah. So I think it really hit me when I was about to get married. I was about to get married 3 years ago, and that's when my skin condition, the discoloration in my skin because of vitiligo spread throughout my entire body. Like it covered up maybe 30-40% of my body, and that's when I looked the most starkly different. Like before that was maybe 5% of my body, 10% of my body. So it was really easy for me to deal with it, even though it might have been difficult for other people, but somehow for me it wasn't as big. But obviously when it spread to my entire face, it spread to my hands and legs and every area of my body, and I looked like I had never seen myself before. My face, my body, when I looked in the mirror, I could see a totally different person. And it happened over a span of 1 year between my engagement and my wedding date. Like it spread like anything. And it was so crazy because it was contradictory to the rest of the world, right? I've always experienced that when I have experiencing distress, the disease spreads. But at this point of time, I was the happiest I'd ever been. I was with the best partner. I had invested so much in self-development. So it was like, there was so much shock that this was the timing that God chose for this disease to spread, when I was the happiest, when I was the most, trauma informed, when I was the most self-developed version of myself. And that's when it spread. I was like, why is this happening right now? Just before I'm getting married, when I have to wear all these amazing, in India, we have 7-day weddings, right? So when I have all these amazing things coming up, why is it happening right now? And I think that's when it really shattered my identity. And I had to, relearn my new identity. I had to re-look in the mirror and start seeing that this is now me, and as it kept on spreading, every few weeks, I would look different. So I think that was a very, very challenging and fluid state of acceptance. I would accept one part and one change in my hands, and the next few weeks, my hands look different again. So I think that's when the acceptance, the anger, the pain, the frustration, all of the self-development work was falling short, because that's when I really felt very, very challenged and very, very questioning about why me, why now, how is this happening? Why did it need to happen? So I think that was the biggest identity challenger when it happened right before my wedding, and when it spread 30% over a year versus just like a little, over the year. So that was, I think, the biggest shocking turn of events in my life, when I was faced with a huge new mountain to climb of self-development and self-love, which I had never faced before.
Yeah. And so what is the skin condition? What did it look like? Because you mentioned change, but what did it actually look like?
Yes. So basically, vitiligo is a skin discoloration condition. And I am Indian, so my skin is brown. And what happens is you lose melanin, which is the color producing chemical in the body. And which means that half, like 30% of my brown skin is completely white with no color. So let's say like my face, half of it is white, like half of it is brown. Half of my hands are brown, half of my hands are white, which with different patches. So almost as if you took a brown canvas and you sprayed half of it with white paint. That's how I looked.
Oh, wow. I can understand how that would definitely affect our self-esteem and, identity. And so what would you say when you talk about identity? Can you expand more on that? What do you like for yourself? What do you mean by it changed your identity?
Yeah. So for me, really, the physical form that I identified as Neeti, right? When I looked in the mirror that this is what Neeti looks like, that itself completely changed. So now when I would wake up and look in the mirror, when I would wear clothes, I would see white patches popping out of my clothes from somewhere, right? I was used to wearing shorts and dresses and all of that. And now suddenly my legs look like very different. They did not look like the brown, beautiful, silky, awesome legs that I had before, right? In my viewpoint before that. And now like suddenly if I wore dresses, I would look diseased, right? And if I went out just like that without any makeup or any coverage or whatever, I look like really patchy or different. So I think it really changed, my understanding of what I looked like in the mirror. It changed how I looked with different clothes. It changed, the kind of medications that I had to be on. It changed, my trajectory with doctors and medications and all of that. So medical journey was a new identity that I had to take on. I was just getting married, so it was a totally different me that was getting married than the one who was about to get married a year before. So I think there was a lot more newness that came in every time I did anything to do with appearance. And therefore, I had to relearn how to love what I saw in the mirror. And the person that was wearing all those clothes she used to wear before, I had to relearn how to love and like what I saw in the mirror and how I felt inside my body. So that, I think those were the parts of the identity that shifted. And of course, because I was physically challenged to look different, I was also mentally, emotionally, and spiritually challenged to accept those changes on a weekly, monthly basis sometimes, to be able to move through all the grief that was happening at that point of time. So there was a lot of emotional identity shift. There was a lot of physical identity shift. There was a lot of spiritual identity shift, because I had always assumed that no matter what would happen to me, I'd always be as confident as I was. But my confidence wasn't where it was. So there was a lot of spiritual identity shift as well, where I had to accept parts of me that were ashamed and not confident. And I was always, telling people like, love yourself no matter who you are and what happens to you. And now I didn't love myself all of a sudden, right? So it was a lot of shock across emotional, physical, spiritual, mental identity as well of who I was overall. Which is why I really shared the 10 to 20 years when I was so confident no matter what was happening to my body. And that itself was so shocking, that suddenly the person who was so confident, who would always stand up for herself, now wants to hide, now is ashamed. So it was a lot of shock also, seeing that transition for myself, that where did this Neeti go, who always unconditionally loved herself, stood up for herself, showed up powerfully, would wear whatever she wanted, would speak her truth. Suddenly I was this little ball hidden in the corner, right? Crying all the time. So yeah, I think it was a complete identity overhaul, challenge, crisis.
And so what happened for you to come out the other side? Your skin has changed. You are, you feel like you're that ball hiding in the corner. And so how did you start to pull yourself back out of it?
So I think, like I said, I was pretty much crying for a good year and a half. I would be like just breaking into crying, any given day and all of that while I was preparing for my wedding. But I think, for me, I just kind of made a decision when I was really just exhausted and I had grieved. When my grieving process was done, um, I made a powerful decision that now I'm going to choose to love myself and I'm going to relearn how to love myself with this, what God has given me. And so I think first step number one was just grieving, moving through all the stages of grief, anger, denial, depression, aggression, and acceptance. So I think first step to choosing love is grieving, because often people immediately want to jump to self-love and gratitude and be grateful for everything you have in your life. You're so lucky, you're getting married, you have the best person. No, I realized that no, I cannot jump to gratitude and love. I need to grieve. So there was a really long 1.5 year long up and down grieving process that needed to happen before self-love could even emerge as an option, right? So I did that grieving. Then I just made a decision that now that I feel pretty light, much lighter than before, now I can choose to love myself. And that's when I made a choice to master self-love in a even more powerful way than I had ever before. So I decided to really stand naked with myself. What does that mean? That means just facing all the emotions, the thoughts, and the beliefs that had gotten shaken up. So every single day, I would stand naked in front of the mirror for 10, 15, 20 minutes and just look at my body and look into my eyes and hear my thoughts. And initially, when I started doing that, it was a lot of hate, disgust, shame that came up when I looked at my body. Like, look at how you look. You don't look good. I don't like what I see in the mirror. Where is the Neeti gone, etc., etc. Right? So I faced all of that. I had to build the courage to face that, face those thoughts, and look at them from a distance rather than get drown in those thoughts. I would observe them, and I would do that naked practice every day. I did a lot of movement and intuitive healing movement. So I would sort of connect with those feelings of shame, disgust, anger, switch on some high frequency music and just move to it and let it move through my body, because there was a lot of trauma and pain collected in the cells of my body. And I knew that I had to intuitively move through it. So I did daily movement practices to release those emotions from my body. I had an amazing coach and healer that was helping me move through these feelings, thoughts, and emotions, move through this anger that had collected over the years with multiple health conditions. I realized that it had reached its peak. So it was not like all the anger was dealt with. There was a lot of emotions coming, which was almost like I had been carrying 10 carriages, and now the carriages were so full that I couldn't move forward. So I had to empty all of that out. So a lot of intense therapy for a year and a half. And then once I was able to do this 2 years of work, then I did a lot of self-love work, very direct. So just giving my body a lot of love. I worked with a stylist. I chose to get new clothes for my new identity that I felt amazing in. I got new makeup that felt amazing to me. I got new lipsticks, new colors. I started wearing things that I now felt, which were new parts of me that had emerged through this healing process. And I got back to art, which I had left for a few years there. I got back to a lot of intuitive painting. So I think all of these processes really helped me find a new, more empowered version of me that felt really safe to be in her body and that loved being in her body. So yes, this is what I did to get back to that new version of me.
And so how did your family respond as you were going through this process? Like you said, they were very, like, they saw you go through the self-development. They saw you as confident. And then all of a sudden, you're upset, you're crying. Cause I know sometimes our families, they see us as one person, and then all of a sudden you're crying and they don't know how to respond. They're like, I don't know how to help you. So how did you navigate through that?
Yeah, I think my family, because of so much, we have a lot of familial health conditions anyway, like skin conditions carry on generationally, right? So my family is very aware. They're a very aware family. We, all my 20 of my family members go for therapy, which is extremely uncommon in India. So, so I think my family is fairly evolved. So they were able to support me through it, because they've supported me even when I was a kid and I couldn't understand what was happening to my body and all of that. They were very supportive. So I think my family is fairly equipped to support me. My partner had been amazing. Like he would be the shoulder I cried on, and he would be there for me. And he would remind me that it was okay to cry, that it didn't make me weak, that it just made me who I was, and an even better version of myself. So I think, in fact, even their love and their support was very healing for me. So I think I have to give a lot of props and credit to my family for being the evolved family that they are, that they could all support me. And even my new family. So my in-laws were extremely supportive as well. They were like, take all the time you need, grieve as you need to, we're there for you if you need anything. So I think on that front, I think I had an amazing, almost like tribe that was just there for me.
That's awesome. And I think that's so important, you talk about empowering other coaches. And I think for the people who maybe don't have that tribe, I think it's so important that we do have that connection, because there are times that our family members, our friends don't support us through those things because they just don't know they don't know how.
Yeah.
And even as entrepreneurs, our families try to protect us. They they're like, don't do that. Like, what if you don't have the 9 to 5, you don't have, the benefits and all the things. And I mean, it can be very lonely, but, as you were speaking, I was wondering, how do you navigate when you go out in public and maybe, you see someone looking or someone asks you about it? How do you respond and, show up when someone asks you something like that? And you can tell that they're watching.
Yeah. So I think, because I have this since I was 18, in varying proportions, I have developed my ways. But I think what ends up happening is that the outer world is a reflection of your inner world. That's what I really believe. So when you are kind of confident on the inside, people are going to, come to you, and then the energy is going to either, go in if you're really insecure, and it's going to make it 10 times worse, or their energy is going to flow right back to them. So I find that in moments of my life where I have been really secure, very few people even end up approaching me. Like nobody even asks me anything. Even before I found my husband, I have dated people, and not a single person ever had a challenge with this. Not a single parent. Like in India, parents are involved in relationships. Like we don't have only, two people together. So never parents have had issues with it either. So I think what I believe is, on one hand, you attract what you are from within. So if you're secure and confident, you don't attract too many people who are looking at you a certain way, who are asking all these questions and all of that. So that's one. As confident as you are, you're going to attract that. But secondly, of course, there were many times when people would just like randomly, I was like traveling in the local train, like from one place, just like you guys have the subway and the metro, right? So I would be traveling in a train, and people would reach out to me and just be like, you know what, hey, try this oil. My niece also has this, and why don't you try this? And in India, it's very okay to just give advice to any random stranger.
Here too.
Yeah.
It's here too. People just want to give advice.
Yeah, in India especially, like you can just walk up to a complete stranger and just tell them, here, take this oil and etc. So I had a lot of those experiences as well. But how I look at it is that, they have the intention to help you, and you just see the intention of that person and send them their way with their positive energy. So that's how I deal with it. And there are times when, if people kind of, for those people who, they are being shamed, I always set boundaries. So sometimes, like, there were people who'd be like, how are you going to get married? You have this skin condition. Who's going to marry you? And I'm like, hey, listen, I have an amazing relationship with God. I have an amazing relationship with myself. And I trust the universe, and I trust myself to attract exactly who deserves me with this, and who deserves my amazingness, my powerhouseness with all of this, right? So I think that kind of self-belief always carried me through and had me have amazing partners throughout my life, even before I met my soulmate, right? So I think I believe that you will attract what you are from within. 95% of the time. The remaining 5% of the time, you send them on their way with good vibes, and set boundaries when someone is intruding your personal space, insulting you, questioning you, etc. Because, like, I'll tell you one crazy incident. So there was like this one relative of my dad's, who told them, when I was like really young, that you can only see divorcees for Neeti because she has a skin condition, and like nobody normal is going to marry her. And they just set that boundary. They were like, you know what, mind your own business. We will do what's right for her, and she will do what's right for her. And we believe in her, and she believes in herself, to know that we'll find the right match for her. This is not acceptable. So I think having that kind of badassness is required, and being able to set that up on the outside. But that's only possible if you have that on the inside. If you are yourself curled up, you can't stand up for yourself either. So I think it's always inner work, and then the external skill of boundary setting.
Yeah. And so how do you find that trust? Because there's a lot of people who do, even when you talk about abundance manifestation, everyone's like, have faith, trust. And everyone's like, what does that even mean? Like, for yourself, because you do have such a powerful connection, and you obviously do have that natural confidence. Like, what about those people who maybe are struggling with it? Because, with my daughter, for example, she's 2.5 months old, and she was born with like a darker spot on her forehead, just like in her hairline. And she has them also all along the back of her head. And I mean, she'll have hair, so it'll cover it. But it's really funny because I noticed it right away. And there was a comment when she was born by one of the doctors, and they're like, oh, she has like a whole bunch of birthmarks. That's so beautiful. But what's been really funny in this last 2 weeks is that the birthmark is getting more and more red. And every single time, like almost every day that we maybe have someone different around, they comment on it and they're like, oh, how'd she bump her head? Where's this? Where's that? And I'm like, it's a birthmark. Like, it's nothing. So, I mean, for me as her mom, it doesn't bother me at all. I think she's beautiful, and I've noticed it myself. Through all that. But, for someone else, like if they're just listening now and maybe they have been struggling, their entire life, like how do they even get started to begin to even trust in that process?
Yeah. So I think firstly, everyone who's going through insecurity challenge, self-love challenge, all of that, it's about making a decision that you want that to change. I think it starts there. Like, it starts with, you don't have to have trust. You just need to make a decision that, hey, you know what, I am completely insecure right now. I don't love myself, but I'm going to make a decision that however long it takes, I'm committed to learn the skill of self-love. I'm committed to learn how to be confident in this world. I'm committed to finding my self-worth, and I'm committed to find the resources I need to get where I want to get and feel how I want to feel about myself. So I think it's a very, very conscious decision that I'm going to do whatever it takes to move from this state of insecurity to a state of security, self-love, and confidence. So I think that's where even my journey started. Is like when I was crying for 2 years, I had to one day just make a decision that, hey, I know I've forgotten how to love myself. I know I've forgotten my self-confidence. I know I used to be a really empowered person, and today I am a ball in the corner. But I'm going to make a decision to change this. And I'm going to, call on to whatever help I need. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to take all the action I can. I'm going to be the best version of myself in as far as long as it takes, because I owe myself this, right? So I think it starts with that decision. And then once you make that decision for yourself, it's a really scary decision because you don't know how it's going to happen. You don't know how long it's going to take. You don't know if you're going to get support along the way. So I think then you need to set up routines and structures in your life to remind yourself of that every day. So what I did, like I said, was did my daily mirror work and held myself through that. I did really, I bought amazing clothes that made me feel good, because that was like an external support, so that I didn't have to do all just inner work, like just sometimes even a lipstick, sometimes even an amazing top, sometimes even an amazing pair of shoes can do wonders for your self-love. People find it materialistic and superficial, but for people with real like skin conditions, hair conditions, and body image challenges, even clothes can make a massive, massive difference. So starting there, I think anybody can start there, right? You don't need any help for that. You can even repurpose your old clothes and just tweak them. That's what I did. Sometimes I just bought like an amazing belt with the same outfit. So I think using style as a tool to feel amazing about yourself. Thirdly, I think getting help, like getting the right coaching or training, sometimes like watching, just courses on platforms on self-love, self-confidence. We don't have money to invest in a coach. But I think when you make a decision to shift that identity, to shift that confidence, you'll find amazing resources, free even, or like very, very minorly paid for, that you can use. And of course, the best option that helped me a lot was hiring a therapist and a coach who could help me to release those old ideas of I'm not good enough and reclaim my confidence. So of course, getting a coach and getting help on the deepest level is highly recommended if you can afford it and make it happen for yourself. So I think this is the range of things that a person can do, starting with a decision and then starting to take minor actions every day to shift that.
Yeah. And I think, I love that you say that about, the lipstick and the clothing and that kind of thing, because, like even for myself, I don't personally have a skin condition or anything like that, but I do find that those things help as well, even for myself. And I say, I don't get ready or put, heels on or something like that. Like I'm not doing it to get attention from others or, to seek other people's approval, but I do it for me, right? Because it is part of our identity is, we are our brand. And with it being part of our identity, it's the feeling good of I chose this.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people out there who they start choosing clothing and they look at what everybody else is doing. I mean, especially in the coaching industry, we see that like there's so many watered down versions of like other people, of people not showing up as their true authentic selves within the coaching industry and, online. And so it's the same thing, I think, with the way we show up with our clothing, with the way we look. Sometimes we go online and we see someone else and how pretty they are. And
Yeah.
we almost like try and be like them. And then we put on, and try and wear what they're wearing. And it doesn't even match like our body and who we really are. And then I find sometimes we even lose ourselves even more in the process.
Yes, absolutely. I think that's such an important piece, is like, when we compare ourselves to other people who are neither have our story, never have gone through what we went through, and are completely from different backgrounds, and we compare like an apple to a watermelon, there's nothing in common, right? So it's so easy in the online world and with social media to get sucked into comparison, into feeling like you're not good enough, that you need to be wearing shorter clothes to look hotter or attract, clients, or you need to be on a beach, like sipping pina coladas to attract somebody. So I think all these ideas about what works and what others are doing can completely take over. That's exactly why a foundation of self-love, self-validation even is extremely required. And which is why daily practices for self-validation, such as like, I love putting on red lipstick. That's my sense of me feeling like a boss, no matter what happens, no matter what chaos is going on. Like my dad has, a health condition that doesn't even allow him to walk. And, my mom is dealing with that. I'm dealing with my own stuff. And I'm like, I got married newly or whatever. And all of that, within that chaos, my clothes, my style is the one thing I have complete control over that can make me feel amazing, right? So I think this is definitely, if you don't trust anything about self-love, this is the place to start, because it's an instant booster. Like, finding even one piece of clothing that's really represents your personal style and makes you feel great, whatever that is. It could be, PJs and an amazing, just like a teddy bear t-shirt that makes you feel really cute and happy. Even that quick action can completely change how you feel on a daily basis if you do it consistently. So I think that could be a good place to start for people who have no trust in anything other than this. This is also great to get you started on your self-love journey, self-validation journey.
Yeah. And I think for like so many of us, especially as entrepreneurs, and even through, the pandemic, so many people who were having to work from home, I did find like a lot of people lost their identities, right? Like a lot of people, and as online entrepreneurs, when we first step into the space and all of that, we do all of a sudden we find ourselves wearing, sweatsuits at home, or, you
Yes.
I mean, I do have pants on here, but there's so many people who, who went through the pandemic and had to stay home and had office jobs, and you would hear them say, party on top or business on top, party on the bottom, right? And so I think as online entrepreneurs, even it just helps with that confidence and to stay focused and encouraged to keep going, even as, like I said, someone who maybe isn't even struggling with a health issue, but someone who, is struggling with self-confidence in general because of showing up online. And I totally agree with you. It helps us just feel better about ourselves because we have control over it.
Absolutely. I mean, I say these two simple things, right? Don't do anything, but just have an amazing bath every day. And that could be a sensual bath. That could be bath with amazing music on that lifts your mood up and your energy up, and wear the clothes that make you feel like the most powerful version of you. If you spend that 15 to 30 minutes every single day by just having a bath and looking your best, that feels good and comfortable and powerful to you, that can pretty much set you up for success. That is as simple as that sometimes.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so how has that changed for you and transformed into you deciding to help others? How did you make that decision? What was your pivotal moment that you thought to yourself, I need to help other people with this?
Yeah. So I think I've always been kind of coaching, like I said, through when I was 21, through all my jobs, my first 3 jobs. And then once I started, became a coach, certified coach, and started coaching people. But I think what propelled me to coach people with health conditions, and I was a business coach for the first 2 years. I coached around 100 women to scale their businesses, do 5-figure launches, marketing, selling, etc. But that's when I really burnt out. That's when my body was completely misaligned. I had hormonal imbalances. I had to get a surgery. I had to be in bed for 4-5 months. And when I was in bed one day, I was, thinking about this, that what if I died tomorrow? Do I want to be known as the best business coach in the world? And even though I was never going to die, I was not in that state, but I just had that kind of existential question about, if I died tomorrow, is this what I want to be known for doing? Is this how I want to be running my business? And is this who I want to be when I run my business? And the answer was such a loud and resounding no, that was exactly the pivotal moment when I almost thought about death. And I thought, you know what, this old identity needs to die. This old way of doing business needs to die. And this old business needs to die. And a new rebirthing is going to happen. And that's exactly why I felt sick and why I've been in bed. So it revealed itself almost through this question. And then I made a decision of, giving myself the space to pivot. And the first thing I needed to do for that was feel safe and loved in my own body, because I had always been living outside my body in my head. I was always thinking, doing, but I was never embodied, especially because my body had gone through so much trauma that was too traumatic to stay embodied. So I did a lot of nervous system regulation work. I did a lot of healing work. I did a lot of body work. Like I said, a lot of somatic practices, dance, movement, self-love, naked practices, and I got embodied first. So that was step 1 of the process, was owning my body and living in it properly and being present in it and facing all the trauma and the pain in my body and releasing all of that. Once I felt safe to be in my body, I had to decide, how do I want to show up now and who do I want to show up for, other than my purpose. And I realized that my purpose was that I wanted to help women who were hiding too, who also had health conditions, who could not show up and be as visible as all the other women out there who didn't have the energy to be online 24/7, to do launches. They would burn out. Their nervous system was not ready for that high-strung business that everyone else was preaching out there. And I realized that there are so many women with, thyroid issues and fatigue and, migraines and chronic pain and all of that, who are still, entrepreneurs, health coaches and all of that, but they don't have any representation within coaches like them. They don't have business coaches who have the right models for them, who have weak nervous systems, who need just 2 to 3 hours a day of work and still create success, right? So there was no model out there for people who did not have able bodies. as able as the regular person who could work 8 to 12 hours a day and be online 24/7, right? Um, so that's when I kind of realized that, oh, this is my purpose. I'm not here to be the best business coach in the world and help people make money, but I'm here to be a voice for people with autoimmune chronic health conditions who don't have a visible model, a visible paradigm for success, which uses their energy effectively, which does not harm their body, which does not lead to burnout and further nervous system dysregulation and health trauma because of their business being too needy for them to show up all the time. So I think that was the pivotal moment that led me to do what I do now, is to incorporate the body, your beingness, your belief, and therefore build an aligned business for women with chronic and autoimmune or long-term health conditions like do have. So yeah, that's kind of what brought me here.
Yeah. And I actually have hypothyroidism as well. And so I know that was a big pivot I had to make. And I'm very much someone who's very creative and I love my business. And so, it's a business. Yes, it's my job. But at the same time, it very much is that feeling of a hobby too, sometimes because of how much joy it brings me. But definitely something that I had to learn as well is to actually go out and live my life in order to not burn myself out, to be, like you said, heart led, not in my head. Because I think so many of us are, really good at that is to like
Yes.
being in our head. And it was funny because even just in these last few days, I've been, reconnecting more and more with my intuition of the moves I want to make in my business. Because like you, I last year was coaching coaches and helping people grow their businesses, scale as well. And I mean, we don't need to burn our businesses to the ground in order to like pivot, but it was also something that I did. And I was
Yes.
like, no, like I completely want this to change. And I mean, today I'm so grateful that I've made that decision because I was able to, not have as many clients that as I went through that transition to tell them like, I'm starting up, like I'm relaunching my podcast, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. And I'm not going to be doing as many programs, and all those kinds of things, because it was things that I saw everybody else doing, losing my own identity. I saw everyone else doing it and I was like, I want to do that. Right. And I think sometimes we have to lose ourselves in order to realize who we really are.
Yeah.
And we have to like, sometimes wear those different hats and then shed back the layers and be like, okay, yes, this is who I really am. And so what kind of things do you talk with your clients about today when it comes to, or even for yourself? How did your model and your business, the way you show up in your business, how did that change, from no longer doing the 8 to 12 hours a day and, focusing on the scaling and the launches? How did it change for you where you were able to actually show up for just a few hours a day? How has that changed?
Yeah. So I think first of all, to back up, I felt sick. I almost believe because it was like I was on the verge of a burnout and I was going to launch a group program. I had 20 women sign up. They had all paid me their 2K or 3K or whatever that was. And I had a surgery that I was supposed to recover from in 2 days. And it took me 4 months to even remotely recover, right? Which was not even supposed to happen. So I think when that happened and I had to pay people the money back and all of that, I realized that this way of launching was not for my system. It was just so terrible for my system to have a huge team and to have like a page and to have, a 5-day challenge and then to, promote it every day and 2 weeks before that and 2 weeks after this and the 6-week launch. And, all of that was just the most shitty feeling ever. I did not enjoy it. It was just something I was doing because I thought everyone has to launch, otherwise how else will you get clients? Everyone has to do masterclasses every month, otherwise how are you going to build trust? And this whole almost obvious thing, right? It's like, obviously launches are the only way to make money. Obviously you have to have a group program. Obviously you need to have like 10 one-on-one clients. Obviously you need to have a 6-figure year. Like it was all just assumed to be true, right? And then when I felt sick, I'm like, hello, 1 second, let me just question this, right? And I knew that, you know what, I never want to do a launch again this way. I never want to push my nervous system this way again. I never want to, do a group program unless it's joyful for me. And I never want to run business this way, just keep talking about money all the time. Keep, like sharing money wins and this client made this much money and, all of that. I just, almost had an out of body experience when I looked at my business and went like, you know what, this whole thing has got to go. Like it does not resonate with me at all. It's just all acquired and borrowed energy from the coaching space that I'm giving back to the coaches that I know, and I'm going to find my own paradigm. So I think it was that out of body experience of looking at, oh my God, what was I just about to do? It was so not me. But like you said, I had to wear that hat to take it off, right? So I took it off. And now I was like, holy shit, now I'm blank slate. I don't know what the hell to do with myself now. If I don't do
I totally know that feeling.
I was like, oh my God, 1 second. What's my program going to be? What the hell am I going to do? How am I going to make money? So it was a lot of questions with no answer. So I think first step was just going through that trauma and, realizing that this is not what I want. Then it was about being blank. And I was like, oh my God, now what am I going to do? And once I sat with those questions long enough, I reconnected with my intuition. I did a lot of movement work. I think then the answers started coming through when the nervous system was back in order. I was able to channel, okay. And then I think what I chose to do was I chose to go off social media. So I wanted to remove all the noise, right? I wanted to remove all what the other coaches were doing and looking at their stories and all those toxic habits of following people. I completely went off social media for a while, and I just was tuning into my intuition, and I realized, okay, what is going to be my model? And I was asking myself, I understood my human design. I understood that I'm a projector. I understood that.
Okay. Everyone who's been on the podcast so far, except for the woman I spoke to yesterday, have all been projectors, because I'm a self-projected projector. And I don't know what it is, but I am attracting projectors.
Yeah. And I did not know human design. I just found it to be very strange until I had to rediscover why it's important for me to know it. So once I discovered I was a projector, I kind of dove into that and just understood what my energy is like, what my body is like, how I make decisions, how I show up, what's going to be energy efficient for me. So I think what I realized was that as a projector, I need to do just 20% actions that give me 80% results, not do 80 actions at a time, which I was doing before, right? So I had to peel back. And I decided that I'm going to stay off social media. I wasn't posting anything. I wasn't doing anything. And I realized that what I need to just do is do what I am great at. So I reconnected with my strengths, my values, and my purpose, and realized that my strengths are connecting with people. So I connect with a lot of people behind the scenes in DMs. I don't show up online. I don't post anything, but I connect with them. I do connection calls because that's something I love and enjoy. I do, lives with people who have, collaborative, tendencies and energies who match with me. And then we attract audiences, and I sell to those select people in the DMs, and I'm nowhere online. So I'm not like posting anything. I'm not selling anything in my posts. I'm not selling anything in my DMs or WhatsApp. It's only through attraction that people come to me based on connection, all of which happens without any social media posting. So I realized that, for me, I have to get my nervous system back in order. I have to regain the strength. So everything right now happens off social media, and it's working really well for me because I'm doing only things I love, which is connecting with people, sharing things I love to share, and people reaching out in the DMs to me, wanting to work with me, and me saying yes to them. That's it. So I just made it super simple, 20% actions with 80% results, and removing everything else.
And I totally love that, because that's, the purpose of this whole podcast, right? And everything I talk about is the whole selling through connection. And so for yourself, so you're talking about, you connect in the DMs, but you had mentioned that you don't sell in there. So how do people actually learn about your services in order to actually work with you? Like how do they even find out about you in the first place?
So right now, because I'm still recovering and healing from my body, I'm keeping it really simple. So I connect with them in the DMs, or I do like lives or clubhouse rooms on the topics that I talk about for my business. And then people, realize that I'm an expert in this space. They ask me how can they work together. I share my program with them on Zoom, and then they say yes or they say no, or I say yes, I say no. So it's as simple as that. It's just sometimes a connection call leads to a sale or a referral. And sometimes I just show up very sporadically on social media. I don't sell anything. I just talk and share something, and then people DM me. So for me, the energetics work in a very strange way. And right now, because I'm very selective, because I have limited energy and I'm still healing, I take on extremely little clients, like just maybe 2 or 3. That's it. Like not even nothing more than that.
Yeah. And I totally get that. Even for myself, when I completely revamped my business, it was, I cut out a whole bunch of programs and I focused on the 3 that I absolutely love talking about, like the 3 topics I love talking about. And with me, it's like, I love to talk about abundance and manifestation. I love to talk about, the mindset and showing up as yourself. And I love content. Right. And so and when we do those things, it doesn't feel like work anymore.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so
Yes.
it becomes easier to go online, do a sporadic live and just talk from the heart versus having to sit down and plan a masterclass and plan a program. To me, that can be very overwhelming. And, I totally relate with you, and maybe it's a projector thing, but even for myself, I was like, man, like, I don't want to take on a whole bunch of one-to-one clients anymore. Like, it just is like you said, working with 10 one-to-one clients is tough. Like, and for me, I also, because I'm such a free spirit with my schedule, I don't like having to put out a schedule. Like for my podcast interviews, that is as scheduled as I get. And I mean, for myself, I get to do it whenever I feel like. It's 2 a.m. where I am right now. Right. And I'm a night owl. So that feels really good for me. And what's really cool is because I work with people globally, right? I mean, what time is it for you? Is it around 2 p.m.?
Yeah, it's 1:30 p.m. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And so, we get to do what works for us. And so
Yes.
how has that transformed into the way you work with your clients today? Uh, like when I introduced you and stuff, you talked about how you empower coaches. So how has that changed with, the women that you help today?
I think A is just giving myself permission to embody and be who I am. That automatically gives my clients permission to be who they are as well. Because I think when I was coaching before, there was a lot of learned things that I was just passing on to them, saying, "Here's the launch formula. Here's a 5-day challenge formula. Here's how you have a signature program. Here's how you market it. Right? Here's how you do an evergreen. Right?
The logic, yeah, that
Yeah.
logic, the mind, the stuff in the mind, the
Yes.
logic and the strategy. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, why aren't some of these people getting results sometimes?
Yeah.
And it's because of their energetics.
Yes. So I think, first of all, I had to cleanse out all that which was not aligned to me out of my system and start embodying who I really was. And I was someone who was, at this point of time, gets too overwhelmed by social media. It takes me outside my body and into my head. It takes me outside my being and into comparison, not feeling good enough, etc. So it's like, it's a space that is not really healthy for me right now. So I took myself out of it. And I only put myself in spaces. I only connect with people who I look at and energetically and intuitively want to talk to. So I think, first of all, embodying that myself, that is step number 1. I embody, releasing old patterns. I embody embracing who I really am. Like you said, you're a night owl. There are so many times my body has unique rhythms. It wakes up at 4 a.m. with an amazing download. And, I used to resist it before. I used to try to force myself to get back to sleep. Now I receive that download from the universe with gratitude. I write it down and I share it the next day. So I think now I follow my heart's nudges as a projector, especially as a splenic projector. I have instinctive nudges all the time. And before I used to resist them, think I'll post about it later. I'll, do the energy, later, let it just be there. And I used to dishonor that. Now I honor all those nudges. So I think I embody that, to be able to give my clients to embody that. I sell through my dance meditations. I made a decision that I don't want to just keep on writing sales posts every 3 days, right? Which is what everyone does. It's like write a long post and at the end, if you want to work with me, here's the program. I just didn't like that. So I made a decision that I'm energetically going to sell through dance, and people are going to love my energy and reach out to me. And now from time to time, I put out a lot of dance meditation videos, and invariably people DM me after that. I just loved your energy. It was so amazing, magnetic. What do you do? How do you help people, etc. Right? So I think I made energetic decisions. I made courageous decisions. I embody my truth now. I follow my nudges. I connect with my intuition every day. And that's how, because I embody it, I can tell my clients with confidence, with power, and I help them to tune into their bodies. I help them to tune into their truths, their intuition, their inner voice, and create a model based on that. Because I do it, I can teach them how to do exactly that without teaching them how to do their business, what to launch, how to launch. Help them open up their download channel so that they can create the business that they need to create. And if that is working 1 hour a day with just 3 clients or 10 clients a year, so be it. I don't judge. I don't tell them they should be making 6 figures. None of that garbage. They choose, they download. I help them clear the channel and they build a business of their dreams, which works for their body, their mind, and their soul. I don't exist in that paradigm at all, and neither does the coaching world out there.
Yeah. And I absolutely love that you share that, because I know there's a lot of really successful coaches out there who are very aware with the way that things work for them. And, the first thing I can think of, the gratitude list, the morning routines. And I've had coaches who, try and tell me like, this is my routine and you need to do it. And this is like, these are the things that you need to do. And they give you their whole routine. And then all of a sudden, I tried and it doesn't, like, this was definitely last year. Like I would try it and it didn't work for me. And that's one of the biggest breakthroughs I've had, is really identifying, well, why does it work for them? What is the reason they, there's one woman, she does like 10 minutes of silent meditation. Well, why does that work for her? A gratitude list. Well, why does it work for her when, I'm sitting there and I want to like, poke my eyes out with the pen that I have in my hand, because I don't understand, how this gratitude list is supposed to work. It's like me writing down 10 things a day. At that point, there was no like concept of this doesn't feel good. Whereas now for myself, understanding my own energy when I do it as to how it feels good within me. So I really like that you shared that, because I think there's a lot of people out there trying to teach their way, and it's not about their way. Like you said, we're not even part of the equation other than like helping them be empowered to show up as themselves. And I think that's a big shift that is happening in this industry, is people starting to see that their power is what's actually going to bring them success versus trying to be like everyone else. Are you ready to dive deeper into understanding the fifth dimension, how to quantum leap, and how to utilize the compound effect? These concepts are super trendy right now, but as someone who has experienced trauma and may still like a little bit of control, trusting blindly can be very difficult for me until I understood how it all works. Even I didn't know how I manifested my dream vehicle, home, man, my baby girl, and hitting 6 figures, but now I do. Every program I have ever taken on manifestation told me to feel energy and trust. I tried everything from being positive, gratitude lists, connecting with crystals, clearing my chakras, and following the moon cycles. I needed more than just to trust. I needed to know how and why. This is your warning sign, though, that once you do learn this, you'll never look at energy and manifestation the same again. Dimensions is a 3-day intensive where you will become equipped with the manifestation sequence. We will deep dive into how it works, how to stay in the vibe, and manifest your dream life, all for only $333. Join now by heading to the description for the link.
Yeah. So I think it's so important, which is exactly why, like when I say I help people to build energy aligned businesses, that energy is their energy, that alignment is to them. themselves, not what makes me feel good. Like, oh, my client made 50K this month, right? That makes me feel good because I think somehow as a coach, like that's something to be celebrated, right? But it's got nothing to do with me or my need for validation. It's very clearly about what feels good to them, what is right for their soul, for their journey, for their alignment, for their happiness, and so be it, right? So I think that was the biggest shift, is like a coach is not here to tell you what to do, or to even guide you to do to do something. The coach is simply there for you to witness your own journey, and to help you clear whatever's coming in the way, so that you shine with your brightness, right? So I think that was a big identity shift. Is like, first I used to think as a business coach, I'm supposed to train people and teach people how to run their business and teach them marketing and teach them selling and teach them XY, yada yada yada. But I think when I shifted that, I realized that no, I'm not here to teach people anything. I don't want to be that business coach. I'm here to just help people connect with their body, their being, their belief, and their business in their way, and build it from there. So I think I'm a witness, and I am like just there to clear their channel. That's it. And everything else I trust gets downloaded in the process, as long as I know how to hold that space, and I choose people who want that space held, right? That's it.
Mm-hmm. And I know there's probably people listening right now who are, hearing like the whole idea around how you have stepped away from social media, because I know I've heard people say that too, that it's very overwhelming, and they're probably sitting here thinking to themselves like, but how? Right? Like, how was she able to do that? Just like you said for yourself. And so I'm really curious, because before we started, you mentioned that you have a launch coming up, and at the time of this recording, you have a launch coming up in November. And so how were you able to navigate through launching that program that you have coming up? Because you have decided to step back into doing programs. So how has that shifted for you? What have you done differently?
So this is a very interesting story. So I had made a decision that I believe in making energetic decisions, and I trust the universe to help me fulfill them. I believe in that. So it works like that for me. So I had made a decision that because I'm unwell, I can't do this alone. I need help on this. And I just wanted to channel business partners. I just kind of put it out there in the universe, and then I just left it. And I continued what I do, which is connecting with people, networking, having connection calls, DMs. This is like something I love. It's something that energizes me. So it's not something I hate. I love it, and I do it in a way that aligns with me. So I was doing my business, connection calls, etc. And this one person, read one of my posts from like maybe a year ago. Right? It was not something I had even posted recently. She just read that post from a year ago. Said we have this company that does, group conversations, and we're coming up with a program around skin conditions and hair conditions and confidence. And we already have a coach who's going to take this program. Can you just give us feedback on that? And when I ended up giving them feedback, they're like, why don't you do this program? So I partnered with this company. They became a business partner. So they are going to promote the entire program. I can choose to promote it if I want to. I may not choose to promote it if I don't want to. And it just kind of happened. So I know you speak about manifestation, but I just made this decision, and I took action to connect with people. And they had read my post from a year ago, reached out to me, partnered with me. Even though they had a coach who was going to conduct this program, they realized that me having gone through skin conditions would be a better fit. I just shared my expertise. I shared my authority with them. And I shared my inputs on how this program could be way more powerful, having someone who's gone through it, and they chose me, and now they're choosing to promote it. And I have a choice. I can promote it if I want to, and I'm going to, but only through the DMs and through podcasts and collaborations. I'm not going to be promoting it through social media posts, because my system is still not ready to receive the likes and the comments. And that right now feels too overwhelming for me. So I am going to avoid that. And I'm only going to sell this in the DMs with people I am already connected with, because because I'm a super connector, I'm a networker. I have hundreds of connections and really strong, good, deep ones. So I'm only going to promote it there. And I trust that the right people will come through because of the solid bond I have with them. So I think it's as simple as that. It's like a combination of trust, manifestation, taking the right action, aligned action, and promoting in a way that feels good for me, and avoiding what doesn't feel good, which is social media posting, stories, and then looking at how many have viewed it and who's replied to them. This is something that sends me in a dirty zone of I'm not good enough. So I'm avoiding that completely. And I still have trust that it's going to work because I have put in a lot of effort in the last many years to build rapport and connection.
Yeah. And I think that was the biggest thing was, you said trust, manifestation, and aligned action. But I think it all begins with the aligned action. I think the aligned action creates the trust. It creates the manifestation. We can put it out into the universe that this is what I want to do, but if like for the manifestation piece, but if we aren't actually taking aligned action, towards it, and it doesn't even have to be like you're working towards it, but just asking ourselves, well, what's the next move that I'm going to take? Like you said, especially as projectors, that 20%, because we try and be like other people. We see the hustle. We see that they're working, nonstop and they're online all the time. And for some people, they absolutely love that. Right. I'm very heart-led when it comes to creating content. And so there's days that I'll maybe do like 3 posts, but I literally post it. Like I don't batch work content, right? It's like heart led and it's like whatever you're getting is like just happened. And, it's the same thing as you said with downloads. That's how I create my content is like through the downloads, because if I decide, oh, I'm going to do it later, the energy is not the same at all. The ideas aren't the same. And it's like, okay, like I don't feel aligned with this anymore.
Yeah, I agree. And the energy completely affects what it creates in the world out there and what it attracts towards you. So definitely, yeah, aligned action is important. And so I never stopped connecting with people. I never stopped putting myself out there in a way that feels safe and good to me. I always did that. Of course, I took breaks when I wasn't well, but I'm just saying that there are actions that you do need to commit to. And I don't have fixed timings. Like I said, commitment doesn't mean that you have fixed timings, fixed routines, and I only do DMs at this time of the day every morning. But it still happens. I still ensure that it happens every week, but in my own aligned way. So yes, aligned action is the key to manifestation, and of course, trust and everything else that follows.
Well, and especially because like you said, it's you love DMs, so that's why you align with it. And so I think it's very empowering for anyone listening to hear that, they don't need to do business the same way as everyone else, or that, they can like connect in the DMs because it's enjoyable and it's fun. Because I know for myself, when I first started business, I had a coach who it was like scripted. They had scripts for talking in the DMs. And even for myself now, as soon as someone like messages me that way, I'm just like, oh goodness, like, no.
Hi.
Right. And there's so many ways, like, especially right now, I don't know about you. Maybe because you're not online as much, you don't see it, but it's the still there. No, I never was here. Like they like send you the pitch. You maybe read it or whatever. You don't even respond. And then there's like, you still there? No, I never was.
That reminds me of like when there are, when you're out there dating and there are these random creepos who you just don't want to date, and they're like, you there, you there. I'm like, no, I wasn't. I don't want to be. And that's exactly why I haven't responded. Get the hint. So it's like that. It's like those bad dates that you never want to go on again. You never want to see the person again. It's exactly like that in the DMs, who do it out of alignment and who do it for selling and pitching, etc.
And it's the same thing with content online. I think there's so much fear that people have when someone does talk about their program, possibly online, that they're scared to hit the like button. They're scared to comment or respond because someone is going to pitch them right away. All of a sudden, they're going to end up in their DMs. And I think there's a lot of fear there. So there's definitely, like you said, when we make the aligned moves of what feels fun for us, I have a client who she really enjoys, like yourself, talking in the DMs. For myself, I'm not as much a DMs person as much as like I said, I love to create content. So I love to connect with people there. But sometimes when I'm in the DMs, it gets really overwhelming for me inside there because especially with the podcast stuff, right? Like over 40 women applied to be on the podcast, and talking to each and every one of them in a genuine way, not just, oh, here's the link, bye. I don't even drop a link to register or like to book a call with me until I've had a full conversation with someone. And so sometimes it takes me time to get through to like connect with people, because like you said, it's going in when we have the energy and not from a place of completely depleting ourselves. And that was one big thing I've had to shift in my business. Having people come to me and say, well, why don't you try this? Why don't you, do sales calls or connection calls? And for myself, I'm just like, I don't want to. And it's like the universe dangles that carrot of they're like, but you could make a lot more money this way. And, and sometimes I like, go towards that direction. And then I'm like, no, because like I said, I don't like to have the big schedule put out, and especially being a new mom, like I don't have time for it. So, I love that you've shared all of this, because I don't think it's just helpful for, people who have health conditions, but just people in general, and really giving them the permission that they don't need to be doing all the things. They don't need to be creating the stories, creating the reels. And I know for myself, as I start to do stories and reels, like I want to do them because it's fun, not because, there's a sales pitch at the end, or, I do it a certain way because someone else does it that way and they're successful. It's, I've really learned, like yourself, like how to trust that process and trust myself and make the aligned move. So I think it's so powerful that you shared that.
Thank you so much. I think absolutely. And of course, I think it takes a while. When you're just starting out in business, you do have to try it all out and then decide. But I think once you're 2 years in, you pretty much know. But I think the best thing that I'd like to share is like, learn how to connect with your body. Most coaches teach you how to connect with your mindset and rewire your mindset, connect with your heart. But I think what most people miss out is the body, and you're living inside it, right? So I think the biggest thing that I advocate, stand for, and embody is connecting with your body and finding answers within your body, because your body knows what feels good, what feels icky, what feels nerve-wracking, what feels exciting. You will have a sensation within you that tells you, yeah, I'm really excited to put it out there. Or, yeah, I love this post. Or yeah, I love this download. Or yeah, I'm not trying that. Ew, I don't want to do that. So I think, like allowing yourself to really experience those visceral reactions when you think of an idea, when you think of a strategy, and then following that, I think that is the biggest gift you can give yourself as an entrepreneur who wants to be successful on her own terms and not through all the noise, is like seeing and checking in quickly how that feels to your body. And when you keep that channel going, your body is going to tell you instantly, almost without even needing a thought in your head. It'll tell you yes or no. Is this me or is this not me? So I love, letting the body be the vessel that guides you versus trying to figure it all out on paper in your head. So that's my number one go-to for alignment, especially when you talk about aligned actions and manifestation, etc. Is like seeing what your body wants and what your soul wants for you versus what your head is telling you or not telling you.
Yeah. And I mean, I think everybody out there can say that they like music and stuff, right? And so really like reconnecting with your body. And, I love that, because I'm like, I'm going to go, try that for myself. Because, I'm that person who, it's in the shower, I always have music playing or something motivational or something like that. And especially like, when you're in the shower and you have music playing, and there's just like this different vibe in there. And, especially when it's first thing in the morning, or you're just starting your day, I find that's when, I get really good ideas. And it's because, it's not even necessarily because of the lyrics in the music, but, you're just allowing yourself to open up and be more free. And
Yes.
So how do you personally do your dancing? I think you said you do dancing meditations, don't you?
Yes, I do. So, first of all, like in the shower, like I said, like you said as well, I just have some music playing and I almost always have like a sexy dance going. Like if someone were to walk into my shower, they would think I'm sexy dancing for someone else, but it's all honestly for myself. Right? So I do like almost as if like you were doing a sensual dance for your partner. I dance like that every day in the shower. That just connects me to my femininity. It connects me to my body, and it opens up my channel to receive what I need to receive. And I truly believe that if you're an intuitive heart-led entrepreneur, millions of dollars are hidden in those downloads. They're not hidden in that strategy or that XYZ blueprint of success. They are hidden in your inner self, giving you those answers about what you need to post or write or sell or show up as today. And that is, if you follow that nudge, you're going to be making millions very easily on your own terms. So I think A is just keeping that channel open through that. It could be through sensual dance, and you don't have to be good at dancing. It's just like the music will move your body when you allow it to. So I think that's A, what I do. But also B, I think it's also intentional. So I do like guided meditation, dance meditation sessions with clients. So what that means is if they have a particular state they're in, if they're, let's say, in a state of stuckness, or they're not able to move on, what program to sell, how to sell, any question or dilemma that they have, we first experience it in our body, we feel it fully, and then we use music and inner child healing to move through it. And by the end, their body does not feel the stuckness, that trauma, that fear anymore. So it's a very, very quick way to move through that and transition out of that, because it's stuck in the cells of your body. So I help people to use different frequency music, different activation music to also move. And of course, we do a session before that, and then we move into the guided dance meditation. So yes, it's an amazingly powerful embodiment tool to release, transmute, and embody a new experience and feeling in your cells, and give your body new instructions to operate differently so that you get different results when you go out in the world, online, offline, whatever it may be.
That's awesome. And so before I ask you how people can work with you, I have one more question. Yes. And what is, like, beyond just the dance meditation, what does a day in your life look like for you to maintain your confidence, to stay in that high vibe state in those times that maybe you are lower vibe, but you want to bring yourself back up? Like, what would a day in your life look like when you're navigating through all of that?
Yeah. So I really, as someone with illness, it can be very, very frustrating not to be able to follow a routine, because your energy level is different every few hours, especially with hypothyroidism and low iron and anemia. You feel like you're very tired even when you wake up. Sometimes you're tired in the middle of the day. All of that happens all the time, and doctors will tell you nothing. It's just like, just have, some water or whatever, right? So they don't really have any solutions for that. So one of the biggest game changers for me has been Atomic Habits. I have extremely simplified versions of my habits that I do every single day, and I'm following 20 habits. 20 habits with a body like mine that I sometimes get sleep at 3 a.m. because I have hives. I sometimes wake up at like 11 a.m., sometimes wake up at 4 a.m. with a download. So I have absolutely no foreseeable routine, and yet I follow 20 habits every single day. So how I do that is that there is a minuscule version of the habit, and then there is a complete version of that habit, no matter what my body and my mind experiences success. So let's say, I have spiritual habits like chanting, listening to spiritual music that I kind of relate to. So what I end up doing is the atomic version of that habit is that I only need to pick up that chanting bag in my hand and put it down. I may not chant that day, but I stay connected to the energy of that habit. So I make sure that those 20 habits are done. I'm connected to the energy of all those habits, whether it's my spiritual habits, whether it is my emotional and mindset habits, whether it is my business habits. So just to give you an overview, these are my spiritual ones. In my business, there is DMing every day. Now, I don't DM people every day, but I open my DMs, I look at people's energy, and I close the DM back. So I'm connected to the idea of connecting with people. I've connected to their energy and I close it. So I think, and then in my business, there is content. I may not post every day, but I will have a download, I write it down. That's it. That's my content done for the day. So I have these amazing habits across all aspects of my life that I follow every day, not at a fixed time, not in a fixed quantity, so it does not harm my nervous system at all. And it's linked to different activities. So let's say while having a bath, dancing is already linked to that. Before I sleep, there are certain habits linked to that. So it's automatically happening without me trying, without a fixed time needing to be there. So that has completely changed my life, because as someone with illness, I used to always feel like I should wake up at 6. I should do this at 5 a.m. I should be sleeping at this time, right? I should be, like having lunch like this or whatever, which is like the typical way of the world, right? Is like a successful person has to wake up and sleep and do yada, yada, yada. I changed that definition of success completely. I removed the time boundedness of the routines. I removed the fixity of quantity in routines, and I made them pliable to my body and being. And now I feel so successful every day, even if I haven't made a dime of money, even if I haven't, had a single client, I still feel amazing because my habits serve me really beautifully and I feel great because of them. So I think that's like the biggest part of my day that makes me feel successful, joyful, and self-validated.
That's awesome, because I think you've just given so many women permission to not have to have the checklist of you have to do 20 DMs a day and you have to respond to this many people, on the comments and all that kind of stuff. I think you've given so many women permission to be like, oh, you mean I don't have to do those things because they make me feel like shit? That's awesome. And so I think you've really just like, even just in like, if there's anything anyone can take away in those 2 minutes that you explained that, is I think that shows that you're just truly an embodiment of what it means to redefine an influencer, redefining what influencer means. And, that's something that is my mission in this world. Right. And so I think you've really embodied that, and also really showing people what it means to make life your bitch, right? Like
Yes.
to be able to really build that business around your life and not the life around your business.
Yes, and yes.
Yeah. So if someone wants to work with you, how can they connect with you?
So I will send my links, of course, but they can connect with me on Facebook, LinkedIn, or Instagram. And I'm still in process of developing my page for my one-on-one program, but they can book the link to do a dance meditation session if they want to shift from a state of being stuck or fearful or in a dilemma about anything in their business and they want to shift it. They can shift that in a 90-minute span. So they can book the dance meditation session, or they could book their one-on-one working with me if they are women with health conditions. And that's a 3 to 6 month program. Or they could just, if they feel like they just like my energy, because sometimes that ends up happening. You just resonate with someone. You don't know how you're going to work with them. You don't even know what you need, but you feel like you just want to talk to them. I'm very open to that, because I feel like that's the best people, is those who have no agenda. They don't know what they want to buy from me, but they just want to chat and then we figure it out. I love that. So I'm very, very open and receiving of that as well. So if anyone just likes my energy, just DM me on Facebook saying, I loved your energy. I loved what you shared. And let's just talk and get to know each other. That's as simple as that.
That's awesome. So I'll definitely make sure with those links that I add into the description and all that kind of stuff, I'll definitely make sure that I add your m.me link so that people don't even have to search for you on the profile. They will go directly to your DMs. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know even for myself, I have learned so much. There's things that I'm going to make sure that I go implement into my business as well. So thank you so much for everything that you've shared today.
Thank you so much for holding the space, for diving deep, and for reflecting back so much power, so much grace, and so much love through the space. And I just love that, we both stand for making life your bitch and creating your own aligned life on your terms and nobody else's. I love that. So this is such a beautiful space to be a part of, and I'm so grateful.
Yes, thank you so much. So for those listening, thank you so much, and go out there and make life your bitch. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Make Life Your Bitch podcast. If you enjoyed what you heard today, please share it with your bestie. And if you haven't already, subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast player. If you have any questions, feedback, or compliments that you want to throw like confetti, you can reach me directly at podcast@makelifeyourbitch.co. Thanks for listening.